All right, everyone, welcome to today's podcast. We're here with the deep megaton champion, Roque Martinez. How are you, Rocky?
Oh, good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Right on. Thank you for joining us today. You are going to be defending your megaton title in Deep 88 on March 9th, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's against Rio Sakai.
Yeah.
How much do you know about Rio?
Man, really not too much. I know we have two common opponents. He I believe it was his last win. He actually beat Yusuke Kawaguchi, who had beat me back in like 2009. And also he has another common opponent is Da Eun Jung from Korea. He actually lost to him, and I beat Jung. So kind of an interesting matchup. So I just kind of found out about him through just looking at his and seeing that we have two common opponents. And
So you haven't seen him fight, live or anything like that?
yeah, well, I was actually at his last fight because one of my guys were fighting out there, but I didn't get to actually watch it. So I watched it on video after I found out I was fighting him. But yeah, he happened to fight that same night. I was out there, but I didn't get to watch it live.
All right, well, before we get in a little more to that fight, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into fighting, Rocky?
And I grew up wrestling through junior high all the way to high school. I've also, I've done I've trained boxing with one of my best friends out in Washington State, and he was a pretty good amateur boxer. His whole family boxed, so I was kind of around that, and I did a little boxing here and there. So I was always into those two types of combat sports, and then after high school, a couple of my friends asked if I wanted to join up an MMA gym with them. At the time was AMC Pancration with Matt Hume. So this is right after high school, and yeah, I started training MMA, and then before you knew it, I was the last friend that was still training, and I never did it to actually compete. I was just training, and then Matt had offered me to try out an amateur event, and man, I had my first fight in amateur fight. I believe it was 2006.
Yeah, I think that's right. I was going to ask you about that. One of your records shows a 2005 fight in
Oh,
September.
okay, yeah, it could have been. Yeah, it might have been 2005 then, actually.
Okay. So did you
I
grow up in Washington State, or
I lived there for about 8 years. I graduated high school there.
were you born
Uh,
there?
no, I was actually born in Washington. I mean, in Guam. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Where you are currently, correct?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Guam. Flew out to Washington for a few years, and then ended up moving back to Guam.
Oh, that's interesting. And so after you were the last remaining friend of MMA, what got you your first pro fight?
Um, yeah, so my pro career actually started on Guam. I had already had a few amateur fights before I moved back, and then yeah, I got offered to fight out here in my first pro fight, and that I believe was 2007.
hmm
It was on a PXC live event, so that's kind of how I got into my first pro fight, and from there, I am where now I'm here now. So
PXC, are they still going? They are a Guam organization, correct?
yeah, but they haven't had an event in a couple years, so I'm not too sure exactly what's going on with them. But yeah, they're definitely the big organization out here that was doing MMA.
Yeah, they've had what 60 or 70 events, I want to say, correct?
Yeah, I think about close to 60, if not.
Wow.
I thought in 2016 I was on PXC like 54 or 55, something like that. So I know they had a couple after that before they, when they had their last one.
All right. So you're living in Guam at that time, fighting for this organization. What got you into Deep, the fight against that you referenced Kawaguchi, I believe, was your first?
Yeah. Well, I guess they wanted to do and it was actually Deep's first cage event. They wanted to do champion versus champion, and me and at the time it was I believe it's the bantamweight champion in PXC was my training partner Justin Cruz. They had both of us come out there and fly to fight their champions, which was Yusuke Kawaguchi and Imanari.
Okay.
So yeah, that was actually Deep's first cage event in 2009.
Yeah, yeah, deep. It's hard to find some of the information on some of these events, as you probably know. I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you mentioned something about the cage. Before I forget, would you prefer fighting in the cage or do you like the ring better?
Man, I don't really have a preference. I guess when you start getting towards the edge or the end of the ring or cage, a cage can work better for controlling your opponent. As you know, in the ring, it can get kind of messy.
Hmm.
But as far as just fighting, man, I don't really care. A fight's a fight, at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that about you. Anyone who hasn't seen you fight, I suggest that there are a few of your fights on YouTube. They need to check them out, as well as previous RIZIN events. Um, I'm just talking to Frank Trigg and some other wrestlers that I've spoken to. They all talk about how the ring actually, I guess I should say, the differences between the ring and the cage are not what most people think. I'm sure you saw Horiguchi and Darian Caldwell at the latest RIZIN.
Yeah, yeah,
Caldwell and all his fans basically said, "Oh, in the cage, he's going to tear Horiguchi up." And I don't think it quite works that way because most wrestlers I spoke to talk about wall walking to get up
yeah,
in the cage.
yeah,
So there is some differences there, but so would you say that you're more stand and bang at this point of your career because you have had some good submissions and you have good
yeah,
wrestling?
yeah. So what's kind of funny is I started out my career. A few of my early on fights, I was kind of known for just standing in there, trading it out, and slugging it. But then I've had those fights where I use my wrestling and my grappling. But man, now I'm kind of at a point where I want to. I still fight smart now, but I really want to put on a show for the fans. I want to be a fan favorite in Japan. They love guys who come out and slug it out. So that's what I want to do. I want to be a recognizable name, and I don't want to be the guy that just takes everybody down and
Right.
you know, lay and pray or submit. But
Well, I could say that you're quickly becoming that, Rocky. I've watched all your fights that I can. I've seen every single RIZIN, of course, but all of your RIZIN fights, especially, and even the one I've heard you talk about it on an interview where you did get the submission, took the guy down. I don't think that was a big of a deal as to what you made it seem on the interview. I think that Japanese fans really, really love you. And before I forget about that, I need to relay a message from Miyu Yamamoto. She
oh yeah,
told me to ask you, her exact words was, let me see here. She said, she told me to ask you if it's true that when you and her spar, that she goes light on you while you go 100%.
yeah, I gotta tone it down, man, because she likes to swing hard. But no, yeah, man, she's funny, man. It's cool to have her on Guam and her level of wrestling to share with the team.
She's an
Uh,
amazing fighter. I'm privileged to speak to her. She spoke nothing but highly of you. And yeah, when did you start training with her?
shoot, I want to say she came out. I know it was before her July. I believe it was a July fight because I was getting ready for my September fight. So it's maybe I want to say May or June of last year.
And this is
Um,
at the Spike 22 gym.
yeah, this is at Spike 22. Yeah.
Most people may not know, but the Spike 22 gym is, I mean, pretty well known as far as producing great fighters. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, man. Spike 22. It's been around for a long time. Uh, Maybe some people might not know, but our head guy there, Malcolm Manabusen, he's been in the wrestling scene for years, man. Even Abu Dhabi ADCC, he competed out there, so he had a recognizable name. And since him, there's been all these, a lot of big Japanese fighters come rolling through. Like you got you got Kid, you got Sakuraba, a lot of big name guys that come through and check out Spike and have affiliations. So I've been around. The gym's been around for a long time. Seen some big fighters, big names come through, and we've been a house. I mean, definitely on Guam, we're a household MMA gym. So, and I think in Japan too, they're pretty recognized.
Is MMA pretty big in Guam?
That since PXC kind of died down, or not, I wouldn't say died down. They haven't had a show. The MMA scene's going down a little bit. I could tell. There's at one point though, MMA was getting really big, man. I mean, so many young kids training, and man, honestly, it was pretty impressive to see how many people were training and the quality and of younger kids we had out here, you know. So I think with the not having any more MMA show for these kids to have an outlet, man, it's kind of going down. I think as far as how many people are training for MMA, and you know, it's kind of sad to see, but you know, I mean, hopefully they'll come back soon, or somebody else starts an event. You know, I mean, that'd be great for the up and coming MMA scene.
Yeah, and plus I think they're going to start seeing people like you and Miu and Urson that train there, and then the resurgence of Japanese MMA, which is,
Yeah.
you know, I think the rest of the world is starting to wake up, but that's kind of why I do this podcast. I don't really speak too much on American MMA or most other organizations. I'm about RIZIN and Deep. And so basically with this Deep fight, did you recognize the difference in Japanese MMA right away as soon as you fought there?
Oh yeah, man, right away. Everything from how polite the crowd is to just how like the fans really look up to the fighters, and um, it's completely different from Guam for sure. Guam's like pretty rowdy when it comes to the crowds and stuff like that.
Similar to America, would you say?
What's that?
Similar to the USA here?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But man, I love Japanese MMA, man. I grew up, you know, I grew up watching it. Like I said, when I trained at AMC, Matt Hume actually had a good amount of Pride fighters that would roll through, and so that's why I was following up with it more. It's different. I mean, like some people will knock it and say, "Oh, it's Japanese MMA. It's like a joke," but at the end, but like, you know, man, back in the Pride days, it was crazy, man. There's some good fights and brawls, and you know, shit, man. To me, they still had like at one point the best heavyweight roster, you know, and awesome fights. So I mean,
No, I couldn't agree more. I think people that aren't familiar or didn't watch MMA at that time don't realize that Pride was bigger than the UFC.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, I couldn't wait for the events. I mean, even when they weren't live, I was going down to Blockbuster and renting them, you know. Those were, and like I told Mio, I think that RIZIN is on to something. I mean, you know, you got the same people in charge, and it's similar to Pride, but I even think a level above in some ways, allowing the elbows and things of that nature. As far as Deep goes, what would be the comparisons between that and RIZIN? What'd you say?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a smaller show. The production's not as big, but quality-wise, I mean, man, they got some talented guys and Deep, you know. It's some high-level competitors there, and I would say other than the production and, you know, the big show, not too much of a difference. You still get quality fights in Deep.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I hope that, do you know where this event is going to be broadcast for us international people?
I think they're doing YouTube live now. I know for at least the last few they have. So, yeah, hopefully I'll find out soon, because I know a lot of my family would want to watch too.
Yeah. Let me know when you know too, because I've watched the last few on YouTube as well. They did a delay on 87, this latest one, for some reason. 2 or 3 week delay, but every other one back to, geez, the last at least 10 have been on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then they put highlights up later and whatnot. I wanted to also talk to you about, so your Top FC experience, what was that like? That was in South Korea, correct?
Yeah. So we did, I think I fought there 3 times, yeah. Man, I like the event too. We call the promoter's name is Dong Jin Ha, and you know, we call him Coach, and man, he's a real cool guy. When I fought out there, they took care of me, you know. I had nothing but good experience with them, and as far as when it came to me continuing competing with them, it came down to more of he couldn't find competition. I mean, not a competition, but opponents for me to fight. I think he was having a hard time with the heavyweights, so that's kind of how I ended up at deep as well.
Do you have that problem in training as well? Finding
Oh
people?
yeah, definitely. That's my. I mean, I would say a problem, but also it works out for me better in a way because I feel like for a heavyweight, I'm definitely faster than most heavyweights, just because I work with so many smaller and lighter guys that I have to adjust to that speed, you know. And but of course, I lack the heavyweight and that feel. But you know, I have a couple guys that come in every now and then to give me give me that feel of a heavyweight, so I can just get used to it.
Right.
But yeah, you know, problem and could be a problem and a plus, you know, at the same time.
Well, and for people that don't know, you're a shorter heavyweight. I mean, 5'10", I believe, and I think every guy I've seen you against has been taller than you.
Yeah, most of my career it's all taller guys.
And but that I guess that I mean you're doing the right thing, Rocky. That's all I could say. I'm looking forward to this fight so much. There is 3 title fights on this deep event, and it's also Deep Jewels on the same night, which is the all female card.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a night of fights for anybody that needs to watch something quality. There it is, right there. Do you feel like if you win this fight that you're going to maybe get another spot on the RIZIN card?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty confident that I'll be fighting in the April RIZIN. You know, fingers crossed. We should lock something up soon, hopefully, and be excited to get on that card, man. To be honest, I just want a really busy year if I stay injury free. I mean, shoot, I'll fight every month if possible, but that'd be ideal for me. But you know, I just want to have a busy year, man. Just you know, I don't have to.
Of injuries, I'm sorry. You had a broken leg and a broken ankle at one point. When was this?
Yeah, man. I actually in 2013. The funny story about that is I had a fight on a Friday on Guam and PXC, and then on Sunday I had you know, I'm also a football player. I played all through growing up and everything, and we have an adult league out here on Guam, and man, they actually convinced me to come out and play for it was a playoff game the Sunday after I fought on on a Friday. So I came out and I played, and at the time I was playing fullback and I was running the ball, and I got hit low on the leg and broke my leg, and I had to get surgery. I had to get actually 2 surgeries on it. So yeah, that's why I got injured in football.
Oh shit! Were you under contract with anybody at this time?
No, at the time I was still just in PXC, but I was just always a fight to fight kind of guy. I was never on a multiple fight contract with them.
And is that kind of the way that you do it in Deep as well and RIZIN? Just 2 fight contract?
So Deep is just fight to fight, but RIZIN my first 2 were on a 2 fight contract, and then this one is part of my 2 fight contract with Cro Cop, and now this would be my next upcoming fight.
Let's get into that Cro Cop fight, Rocky, because I think if people just look at the results on SureDog or Tapology or whatnot, they don't see how close that fight was. Being a major Cro Cop fan myself, you know, how can you not be? You know, yeah. I was surprised. I mean, I knew that you were good, but I was surprised that you put so much pressure on him and were able to handle your own in the clinches. He elbowed you, and you had a cut on right at the hairline, which is for boxers and MMA fighters alike kind of a bad spot to get a cut because it takes a while to heal, from what I understand. How is that cut?
Mine actually healed pretty fast. I went to I believe it was about 8 or 9 days after they put the staples. I went to the doctor and they pulled it out, and the doctor told me I healed actually really well. And he immediately cleared me to fight like anytime after that. So
you haven't had any issue with it since, huh?
No, I haven't.
That's good. That's good to hear, man. Because like I said, I've seen some boxers and they get back in there too soon, and you know, it's just a weird place to have a cut, I guess. I knew you were disappointed in that, Rocky, and so was I. I was just a fan of MMA because I wanted to see what was going to happen. It was about 5 minutes into the first 10-minute round. And, I mean, to be honest with you, I thought it was the toughest test I've seen Cro Cop in for a while. I mean, he's starching dudes. you know. What was it like fighting a legend like that? Were you a fan of his?
Yeah, man, definitely I was a fan. He also fought one of my friends, and he was actually my coach before, was Josh Barnett. So I was definitely familiar with him, man. I was there when Josh was training for him when they fought, and definitely a big fan of his, and definitely an honor to hop in there and fight with him. It's never thought I'd get a chance to do it, but I did, and
Oh,
uh,
here's to hoping that you get that one back, man. I mean,
yeah,
as a fan, I'd love to see that rematch. And from the interviews he spoke about, he wasn't necessarily happy that the fight was stopped either. He's a warrior, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
to like you said, to these Japanese organizations, just getting the win isn't enough. You
yeah, yeah,
know, they want the crowd to go crazy.
yep,
You
yeah,
mentioned Josh Barnett. I just did an interview with Alyssa Garcia, who you may know, one of his pupils, who's really really good. She's beat Kana Asakura, who, of course, just
yeah.
lost her title, and then she's lost to Hamasaki. How did you meet Josh Barnett?
I also met Josh at AMC at the time. My first experience with him was I was doing an MMA class, and he was he was uh he was doing some rounds getting ready for Cro Cop, and he needed a big body in there, so he had me jump in, and that was the first time. And then from there, we started training together pretty often, and he was giving me a lot of pointers and really helping me out. That's how it all started. That's how I met him.
That's awesome. Josh is an awesome person to have, and geez, I can't imagine the training.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was telling Alyssa, I believe that she got extremely lucky to run
Yeah,
into him because she's developed so quickly as a fighter, and you could see his influence on her.
yeah, for sure.
Um, Back to the Japan thing, the crowds are super, super quiet. Have you ever fought in anything similar, small show where the crowd was that quiet or anything?
Man, no, not really. I mean, Japan's just definitely different, and it's something like you can really appreciate, though. They really have knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it comes across on TV. I tell people all the time, these Ryzen events are $20. I mean, the deep events have been free. They, I think here in America, people don't see much past the UFC, as you
yeah,
may know. It's like Bellator is kind of like off to the side, and they don't understand that they're in Japan. You guys have some of the best bantamweights, some of the best flyweights,
yeah,
some of the best. The one thing that Ryzen's lacking maybe is like 185 pounders, you know.
yeah,
But now with the upcoming 205 belt with King Mo and Yuri Proska, I
yeah.
just think personally that I'm seeing some of the highest quality MMA in Japan, to be honest with
I
you.
agree, man.
And we're not dealing with picogram John Jones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so did you ever? I mean, was it ever a dream of yours to fight in a big organization like UFC or anything like that?
Um, yeah. I mean, I've always thought I could compete at that level. I was at one point when I was on like this was 2016, or yeah, 2016. I was at a 7 or 8 fight win streak, and then I was set on that sometime UFC is gonna say, "Hey man, come on, hop on." I was figuring with the long win streak, and then I had a draw in Top FC, and I was just kind of like, "Oh man." Actually, at that point, I considered hanging it up, and I actually did. I short term retirement. I just kind of like, man, I had a draw after that win streak. I was like, man, chances are I probably won't get to a big show. I was like thinking
Wow!
of my age.
Just
And
because of a draw?
yeah, I was just so set, like I would need a big win streak for UFC to pick me up, and I figured that draw and trying to build up another 8 or 9 fight win streak was going to be, a long road ahead, and I was already, in my 30s, and um, I guess I wasn't, thinking ahead enough, but um, luckily, Deep came and offered me a title fight, and I was still training. And I just knew I wasn't ready to hang it up. I still had a lot left, and along came the Deep title fight offer, and in 2017, and I took that, and here I
That
am
was
now.
That was it.
Definitely.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just definitely happy to be with RIZIN, man. I mean, looking back at my first RIZIN show when I fought LeBanner, and they do the intro, the ceremony, and being a kid and watching those opening ceremonies before, and then being back there and getting ready to walk out is it was pretty man, it was pretty surreal for me. Something I couldn't have imagined before, and it was definitely exciting. And
That was the 2017 autumn show, right? Aki no
yeah,
Jin show. So that wasn't at Saitama.
no, that was in Fukuoka.
Okay, so there wasn't. So what was your first time at Saitama like? Because I know there's a big difference between 15,000 and 30,000.
Yeah, that one was. And I've watched fights at I've watched a couple Ryzens at Saitama before, and I've always said, man, I want to fight here. When I finally got to do that ring check and just walk around, look at like, man, you're standing there and you're looking up and you see how high the seats go, and man, I just sucked it up. Like I just really enjoyed it, man. I felt like this is where I belong. I'm meant to perform here, and unfortunately that I didn't get the win that night, but I don't know, I'll get back there. Hopefully, sometime this year, or even the New Year's Eve card. Man, I'd love to be there and put on a good show.
Yeah, and they are doing two events for the New Year's Eve again, 29th and 31st, for
Yep.
the fans that don't know, which I think is the better way to go. Their Grand Prix have been awesome. But that was one thing Alyssa also spoke about, is just her love of being there in Japan. I mean, this girl can go fight for Combate, the Americas, or an Invicta or something. She doesn't want to. She wants to fight in Japan.
Yeah.
And so every fighter I've spoken to that's fought there is just describes it as something special, and it conveys to us fans on the TV. But as a fighter, I mean, if the UFC did come offer you something, would it have to be substantially more money to change your?
Yeah, it would, man. I mean, at this point right now, it makes more sense for me in RIZIN. It's I know the UFC. I've seen their entry level pay and stuff, and yeah, I mean, it's like a lot because UFC. It's really hard to build yourself out there. You're kind of at a disadvantage with such a huge roster. I mean, who knows if you'll get your chance to stand out, what card they're going to put you on that people are watching, or this and that. But for me, like RIZIN here in Japan is close to home. My family can fly out 3.5 hours to come watch me fight whenever I fight out there. The fans from Guam, like my last fight when I fought Cro Cop, I had a good amount of Guam people fly out. So I think it's to my advantage fighting in RIZIN. The marketability is better for me.
And I think that the personality shows more. From your entrance music to getting to watch all that, to the backstories, to the confession series, to I just know that I feel like as a fan, I want to know more about the fighters beyond just cut to here's Roque Martinez in the ring, record 12-4 or whatever. Getting to do that intro is amazing. And speaking of the intro, what was it like the first time you heard Lenny Hart announce your name?
Oh man, like prior to me fighting in RIZIN, when I hadn't known I was gonna fight, I was just kept picturing that. I was like, how's she gonna say my name? I was like wondering how she's gonna say it, and then when it finally happened, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. For real, man.
I bet she's going to be on this podcast here in the coming weeks, and I'm just so humbled by it because, like you said, as a fan of Pride, this lady is, I believe, the best announcer in the history of combat sports.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
I mean, one championship. I'm sure you've heard their knockoff Lenny Hart. I don't know what that's about, but
yeah.
it's
she was there for a while, right? She was in one for a bit.
She was in one, but then it's like, and I like Chevello and I like these guys, and there's one's got some good fights, but don't give me a knockoff Lenny Hart. You know what I mean? Just don't do it. You're also confusing the fans, because the fans don't even see this lady that much. They just know her voice,
Yeah.
But she's an amazing person. So would you say in the fight with Cro Cop, what was your disappointment like after, Rocky? Because you could see it a little bit in the ring, but confessions didn't really show you backstage.
Yeah. So for me, man, I just put a high emphasis on winning that fight and just being like, I was ready to shock everyone who was doubting me. In my head, prior to that fight, in my head there was no way I was gonna lose. I played out every scenario. I said I just didn't believe he could knock me out. I'm just that confident in my ability to take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% knew for sure if it went to a decision, there's no way he's gonna outwork me. Like the longer the fight went, like the better it was gonna be for me. And then I also thought like somewhere in there I'm gonna find a way to finish him. And um, just all those scenarios I played out, I was like, these just can't beat me. But the one way like I never even pictured of being losing was having a doctor or a ref say, "Hey, it's over." Like that was the one thing I never imagined, So super disappointing on my end. It's like, I mean, in a way, it's like if I want a loss on my record, I want to have been beat. I want the guy to beat me.
Right.
He knocks me out, he beats me in the decision or whatever. But to lose by like nothing I had control over, that's a hard pill to swallow. So,
That's why I encourage the fans to go watch that fight. That was at RIZIN 13, I
yeah.
believe, and I encourage fans to go watch that because it was a really close fight. And Japan's not really known for stopping fights early. I don't know. Did they tell you it was just because the cut could spread, or what was the explanation you were given?
Well, apparently they said the cut was pretty deep. My cornerman said it was pretty deep, but at the end, I mean, if it wasn't really bothering my vision, I don't know what the problem was. I don't know if you watched that fight, the co-main event to Pacquiao with Body Jack and his cut.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the middle. I was like, man, look at that cut.
And they let that fight continue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like, oh man.
Yeah, I think it was just one of the few unlucky things, but I'm confident that if you don't get that shot again, Rocky, I'm really confident that you're gonna get some good shots in RIZIN because we don't know how long Cro Cop has left, and
yeah.
But how long do you want to keep fighting?
Man, really, I'm just going by. I can't really give a year, an amount of time, but I'm just going by how I feel. I continue to feel like I'm getting better, even as I age now. So we'll see. But once I start to feel the decline, or like more injuries and stuff like that, I know I think I'll be smart enough to know when I need to hang it up. But for now, man, I'm just every day I'm getting better. I'm just keep pushing my limits,
And you are 32 years old?
Yes, I'm 32.
You're going to turn 33 before your deep show, correct?
Yeah, right. That week I actually turned 33.
Well, see, and I think that you're probably just entering your prime. Just judging on heavyweights and what I've seen in the past, and then the growth that I've seen from you. I really think that and I hope as a fan that we see you closer to 40 rather than at least. You know what I mean? Because as you see, if you do get a major injury, maybe take a break like you did before or something. A lot of fighters tell me it's when they lose that passion to train.
Yeah, that too.
And you have a regular job?
Yes, I also hold a regular job. I'm a supervisor at a insurance company actually. So man, I got a busy schedule, man, every day. It's crazy to look at it, but man, I love working hard now.
Is that the insurance company that you wear on your shirt?
Yeah, they're also a big sponsor of mine. They really support me, man. They they support me financially, of course, as my employer, and also with when I need to take time leave to go out for a fight, I get to use that paid vacation, and they approve it. So they're just really supportive.
Both of your shirts that you've worn in RIZIN are dope as shit. I just got to say that, and I need to find a way to get a hold of one myself.
Yeah, definitely. So on whenever I have my next few prints, I'll definitely get you one, man.
Right. Yeah, thank you, man. Not only will I wear it, but I'll put it right up here with all my other RIZIN stuff for every one of these podcasts, man. Because I've liked both of them. The RIZIN Z, you've seen the Crazy Bee new logo, correct?
Yeah.
The way that they've incorporated the RIZIN Z and Crazy is, I mean, that's another thing about Japan is it's not just the fighting styles, the crowd, it's the presentation. Like I said, your personality shines through the way Miyu Yamamoto's does, the way, all these other fighters get to. But back to that deep show for a second. Yuki Motoya is defending his title on that fight. Is that the main event, or are you?
Yeah, I think that's the main event with Victor Henry.
It was really good.
That's a good matchup. I'm actually excited to watch that one. I know Victor Henry trains, or he was under, I believe he still is under Josh.
Yeah.
Barnett. So definitely an exciting match, man. Those are two good guys, man. Like definitely underrated. Yuki Motoya too, man. He's on a tear right now. So
he had that MVP choke in that last RIZIN event against Justin Scoggins. I mean,
watch that one. That was a freaking good show, man.
That was amazing. What did you? I hate to even talk about this because it just pissed me off. But what did you think about the Floyd and Tension fight?
Man, I'm a huge fan of Tension. I'm also I'm a fan of Floyd. Not necessarily his out of ring antics, but that guy is the epitome of hard work, man, and just his training, his method and his work ethic. I'm a really big fan of both guys, but when they said it was going to be just a boxing fight, I was like, man, Floyd's like light years ahead, and it's not anything to knock on Tension. Tension's freaking a game kid, man. He's still got a lot of potential. So,
well, he's 20 years old and 30 pounds lighter. I mean,
that was another thing. I was like, man, how's he gonna have enough power to hurt Floyd after the guy's Floyd spot? It's like, how are you gonna hurt Floyd when he spot guys like Canelo or Pacquiao and.
Well, and I don't know how much of forums and stuff you've read, but the fans have this weird idea that fight was fixed.
Oh no!
And
I don't know what the point of fixing that fight would have been. Like,
well, especially in that manner, like if you're gonna fix it, have it go 3 rounds or something, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just shows the in my opinion, it just shows the skill level that Mayweather's at, and like I said, nothing to knock on Tension, man, dude. Like that kid's game, But look what Floyd's done to other people, so it's not like it's as bad as everyone makes it seem.
No, and if you look at that first shot, it was an equilibrium shot behind the ear.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been hit there, and
it's probably couldn't recover. I mean, and he was still taking shots after that. So it's. Yeah, I don't know about all that fight fixing stuff, man. That's kind of silly.
I think that people just like to discredit Japanese MMA for some weird ass reason. I don't know if it's because they don't want to stay up all night and watch it or whatever, but it's these UFC fans that are yelling "woo" all night. Those are the people that are talking the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just it's ridiculous. But I did enjoy. The spectacle of the event, of course, but Horiguchi beating Caldwell was one of the most amazing things. I think that legitimized all of you guys in RIZIN as much as any fight so far, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you gotten to have any interactions with Kyoji?
I want to say it was a few years back, but he's been to Guam and trained at Spike. Of course, he does have the affiliation with Crazy B, and Crazy B has a close affiliation with Guam with Kid and our gym owner Melker. So there's all these ties, and I've talked to him before, he's a real cool guy, Kyoji, and man, it was a good win for him to represent RIZIN to the U.S. fans.
Huge win. I don't know if you saw, but they renamed one of the dorms at the American Top Team here in Florida. Horiguchi Hall.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
That was really dope, But I encourage everyone to go back and watch the previous RIZINs, especially your fights. You've been in nothing but exciting fights to me, and with this upcoming deep fight, Rocky, I just can't imagine a way that it's not going to be a war. I mean, I've only seen a little bit of Ryu, but like you said, you have some common opponents. It seems like he's willing to stand and trade. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. From what I've seen, yeah.
Let's hope, huh?
Yeah, man. I'm really looking to put on a really good fight and a dominant fight. Like I said in my head, I have it so set that I'm just gonna completely, dominate and also put on a good show. It's not necessarily to knock Rio because I have a lot of respect for him, but he's kind of in my way for getting where I want to be. Like I said, I want to be a fan favorite and, you know, earn my respect from the Japanese fans. And the perfect way to do that would be to just put on a good dominating type win on this next one.
You've never been knocked out in professional competition, have you?
No, I've lost by a TK. The worst one was a ref stoppage, and one of my title defenses back in like 2011. That's actually my most previous loss prior to Cro Cop.
Right. That was the one that you avenged that loss against Kelvin?
Yeah, I avenged that loss in 2016. So
there's a really
I've never been knocked out. I'm not to say I can't be knocked out. You know, I'm not. I know it takes one perfect shot, especially from the heavyweight to ring your bell. But I'm confident I have enough defense and ability to take a shot to avoid it as much as possible.
Well, and I think fighting for 12 years, you know, or so, however long you've been fighting and not getting knocked out is a testament to you do have a good chin, you do have good defense, but also that you have longevity coming. Because a lot of these guys, I mean, I don't know how much Bellator you watch, but watching Aaron Pico get knocked out at 21 years old and getting starched so many times early in your career, that makes me worry, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about this Bellator and RIZIN cross promotion? Is there anyone there that you'd like to fight?
Man, looking at they got a big heavyweight roster, so man, I'd enjoy fighting anyone really. They still got some OG legends on their roster that I wouldn't mind fighting either.
What do you think?
What's that?
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So I was hoping like I get that win against Cro Cop, so you know they start, you know, maybe look at me as like a legend killer and just go after all the. But you know that didn't happen. But I'll be happy to fight anybody from Bellator.
You know, and like I said, people need to go back and watch that fight. It's classified as a loss, but it's a stoppage due to a cut. I don't even think you took that hard of blows in that fight, Rocky. Were you ever hurt?
No, man. Like I said, he landed a couple of uppercuts that were. I know when it's a hard hit, but I felt like it was a hard hit, but I wasn't rocked. If you know what I mean, it's hard to explain, but I've taken shots and it was a hard shot, but wasn't enough to rock me or stun me at all. I still good to go, you know.
Well, let's hope that this cross promotion continues. I you know, watching the fight last week with Bader and Fedor, I think that you'd match up really, really well against Ryan Bader.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one, man. Like
that'd be a great fight, you know. Yeah. And so, is there any plans in the works for a heavyweight, another heavyweight Grand Prix? Do you have any idea in RIZIN?
Man, you know, I haven't heard anything on it, but I would imagine that sometime soon, hopefully, because the last one was 2016.
Yeah.
When Cro Cop won, so I would think maybe at least every 2-3 years they do one. So hopefully,
I know that they're doing the lightweight one this year, but it starts in August, and so I'm not sure if they're planning to wrap that up before New Year's. But these Grand Prix are something else. Have you ever fought twice in a period of a couple of days?
No, I haven't. But it would be a cool experience. I mean, granted, it swings my way.
Yeah. Well, even just to fight twice in one night, you know, on like the 31st show would be quite amazing, man. You know, I think that you're quickly becoming a fan favorite, Rocky, and I just got a couple more questions here. One of the questions I want to ask you from the fans, we'll get away from fighting just for a second, is the fans wanted to know what is your favorite music? What do you listen to?
Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what man. I listen to everything really. Like my variety of genre in my playlist is from one end to the other. It's pretty funny actually, but I really can't say what's my favorite right now. I just listen to everything. Like now, it's funny when I go to Pandora, I just hit there's like a thumbprint station where it just plays all the ones you thumbs up, so that like when I listen to that playlist, I'm like, damn, what a crazy that one is, you know.
Do you listen to music before your fights?
Yeah, I do.
And what gets you hyped then? I mean, is it rap music, rock, hard rock?
That one too is a big variety, but also I like to listen to we have music out here. It's like kind of like a we call it island style, like fiesta reggae music.
Okay.
I like listening to that, man. It makes me happy, makes me think of home, and just puts me in a nice, relaxed feeling. And so that's probably something I play a little bit before I walk out. Put me in the mood.
As far as your walkout song, how did you choose that? You've used the same one in RIZIN every time, correct?
Yes. So I used to play a different version of it's called 5 hours, and I used to play just there was a different version from the Chris Brown one, and then I came across Chris Brown's one, and the funny part is I heard that song before my first deep title fight, and there's a part in there, because at the time I had retired before that fight, and there's a part in there that talks about there's something about that type of party that keeps bringing me back. So it kind of reminded me of fighting. Like there's just something that'll just keep bringing me back, and that's my type of party, man. I enjoy fighting.
That's dope, man. Did you have any inspirations growing up? I mean, fighters or otherwise?
Yeah, man. To be honest, I've had a lot of. I looked up to a lot of athletes, a lot of great athletes, because they always inspired me. It's just they could show you that anything's possible. And of course, it doesn't come without hard work, but definitely a lot of athletes inspired me, and no one in particular I could think of, but I've looked up to multiple athletes.
You mentioned your training. It's another thing Miu said about you is that you're one of the hardest workers in the gym, and we haven't seen any cardio issues from you, Rocky. And just to be honest with you, it's like people look at you and think, "Oh, this guy's going to have some cardio issues."
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I hear from the fans. And
Yeah, I hear it too.
I'm sure. How confident are you in your cardio?
Man, that's my staple, man. If anybody knows me, who's around me when I'm training, like I could just push the pace. I'm always training. I train so often, so frequently. It's just I just have it in my head that just the harder you train, the harder you push yourself, the easier the fight is. And now I'm just at a point where I enjoy like just pushing myself every time, and just really I'm having these visions in my head of where I'm going to be down the line, and it's just that much more motivation to push harder, and I 100% confident that I'm one of the hardest workers out there. I'll put it up against like all the big name cardio machines out there. I'm that confident in how hard I work, and I haven't had a fight in the last few years to prove it yet, because they've ended pretty soon. But I hope to get, not that I want to go to a decision, but I hope I get to showcase my level of conditioning, because I feel like now in training, when I get to my later rounds, I'm able to just keep pushing, and yeah, man, it's just all hard work.
Would you prefer the first round be in 10 minutes?
For me in the heavyweight division, yeah, I think that, like I said, no, I don't think a heavyweight can keep up with me in a 10-minute round. When I fought Cro Cop and he asked for the 10-minute round, told my manager, I said, "Hey, yeah, take that. That's going to come to my benefit." And man, I saw him fading halfway through the round. I can see him huffing and puffing. And to be honest, I was warming up. It was going just as we had planned. I would start kind of not necessarily slow, but fill it out, pick up the pace. And as the fight was going to go, I was just going to keep building. So eventually, we break the opponent.
Well, see, and I think you have shown some of your cardio even through short fights, since like the Samurai Mark Hunt fight.
Yeah.
That was just action from beginning bell, and you could see that he faded, whereas your shots were still looked the same to me in the last minutes as they did in the first. That fight only lasted 3 minutes or something.
Yeah, I was getting warmed up in that one too. As I told my corner, I was like, "Man, I'm warming up. We're getting warm."
I heard you speak about not wanting to wrestle as much in RIZIN. Do you feel pressure to? I mean, we kind of spoke on this, but do you feel pressure to get a knockout, even if it goes against the game plan? Would you say, or?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel like I wouldn't say pressure, but I'm smart enough to know that what the fans want to see, and I know they want to see knockouts more than me submitting guys, and and that's something I want to do. I want it to a point where the fans are going to keep asking RIZIN, oh, can you bring him back, because we want to see him do this, you know. So
I got to
yeah,
tell you, that's the goal of this podcast here, and that's why I'm trying to get on the people that I see on the uprise, is because that's what it takes, is the fans saying, hey, we want to see this guy again, we want to see this girl again. And
yeah,
as we all know, it's like, look at Minoa, man. Nobody cared about his record in Pride. Nobody gave a damn that he was below 500 most of the time, because he came out and performed every single time.
yeah.
And man, he was amazing. I think he's fighting tonight in that quintet show. You planning to watch that?
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I'd like to, if I can, I'll try and catch that. It's probably pretty soon though, huh? Like,
yeah, I think it starts, if it hasn't started already. I knew Miyu Yamamoto as a guest commentator.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she was really, really nervous because she's not fully confident in her English, she says.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. So it's probably it's cool though. That's a cool concept too. That quintet, man.
Is that something you could see yourself doing post fighting? Is submission grappling, something like that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely for sure. I'm a competitor at heart, so maybe if I hang up the gloves, I'll get back into pure grappling. And a lot of people don't actually know, but I'm also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and to be honest, I don't put on the gi as much as I probably should be. But yeah, man, I love grappling. Started as a wrestler, and I can grapple and I can wrestle. So maybe down the line when fighting career is done, we can get into that. But for now, I just want to fight, man.
I don't blame you. What about some kind of guest commentary? Have you ever thought about anything like that?
I'd be open to it.
You're a good speaker, I just got to say. And they had Gilbert Melendez on this last RIZIN, and he's never. I mean, he's fought in Pride, but he's never fought in RIZIN. I think that's something that maybe the fans could push for the card that you're not on, to commentate a heavyweight fight or something. I think you have a lot of knowledge to give. So
yeah, I'd definitely be open to it, man. I love MMA, and if I can surround myself with it, even if it's not fighting, like you said, it's something I'm open to.
Do you know if Deep has any plans to do some English commentary?
That I'm not too aware of. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not on this one coming up. I'm not too sure if this is the first time they're doing a. So from what I understand is that the Jules card is before the Deep card. It's like going to be earlier in the day or maybe right before, and then Deep carries right on through the evening.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like two separate cards, but in the same place. So, I mean, I'm not sure if they're going to do English commentary on that one,
I would sure hope so, because I know that's probably what dissuades some people from watching some of this.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't know lick of Japanese. I mean, a little tiny bit. What about you? Do you know any?
Man, I know the foods, and I know how to say beer in Japanese and beer on tap. I know the important things.
Important things.
Like something I'm really, really I've always told myself I want to do is to actually learn Japanese, because I know the fans respect fighters even that much more when they can speak the Japanese language, and to be able to communicate with them would be pretty cool, and that's gonna help me to be more fan favorite too. That's something like I'd want to do too. So
I'm actually on the same goal myself, because I'd like to interview some Japanese fighters who don't speak English.
Yeah.
And I had a couple exchange students in school. I'm 35, but and they taught me some things, but I was a kid then. I wanted to know how you said titties and things of that sort. You know what I mean? I didn't give a damn. And so I'm actually on the same tip as you, but Japanese is really, really hard to learn from what I'm finding out.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Do you speak any other languages, Spanish or?
Well, I could understand a little bit of our native language on Guam is called Chamorro, so I can understand a little bit of that and speak just a little bit of it.
What would you say that language is like, Rocky? Can you say a sentence or something in it?
It's like a mix of, you got like Spanish, there's even like a little bit of Filipino in it. which is also like Filipino, get some Spanish in it.
Right. Like
It's also
Portuguese
mixed,
too.
yeah. So I mean, you got all these different things in there. So like half a day and tomorrow is like hello, or that's like a way to greet somebody, half a day. So that's it's an interesting language when you ask a lot of people. There's also traces of like older, I want to say like Polynesian, some Polynesian they've found in the language. So it's pretty
Wow.
interesting. I've always wanted to look more into that and kind of educate myself more on, the where everything comes from.
Were your parents fluent in this language?
My mom could speak and understand a little bit. My grandparents are very fluent in Chamorro. They speak like one of the more native, uh, because of course they have I don't know how to say it, but like the more original, like we call it Antigo Chamorro, like which is the real like only old school people Chamorros understand it. So my grandparents are fluent in that, and my uncles, but it kind of watered down to me, and I wish it didn't. I wish I understood it more.
Right. I'm the same way with Spanish. My family, speaks Spanish and I teach it to my daughter, but it's like, as you get older, it's just hard to retain it. And then it's harder to
Yeah,
learn shit when you're older too.
yeah. Especially with so much English like everywhere now. It's you
English
know.
is affecting the world, man. All right, Rocky, we're going to just wrap up with a couple more things here. I wanted to ask you, what would you do if you weren't a fighter? I mean, besides the insurance stuff, what would have been your career?
I always tell people, man, I grew up wanting to be a professional football player, man. That was my ideal dream career.
Hey, professional football. I know you're a Seahawks fan, correct?
Yes, sir, man. Like I said, I'm from Washington. My first job out of high school was working at the Seahawks Stadium, and that was actually just event security. So I got to watch the games and just make sure people were behaving.
Right, right. A little more watching the games than watching
Yeah,
the people, I'm sure, huh?
yeah, yep.
What about RIZIN 13 had the typhoon? Was there any concern for you at that time?
My only concern was that if they by any chance canceled the fights, because I just really wanted to fight.
You were
Uh,
moved around though. I mean, your fight wasn't moved.
oh yes, actually it was. They bumped ours up earlier because I guess they wanted the fans to catch the train that was leaving. I believe they had like their final call at 8 p.m. So they had to wrap up they wanted to wrap up the main card by 8. The other bummer to that one was they also cut out the opening ceremony.
Oh, I know.
Man, one of my favorite parts. It's like I couldn't help but be bummed about that. But at least they didn't cut out the fight.
Are you sitting in the back, watching the other fights after the opening ceremony? What do you do during that time?
I just relax. I mean, I'll catch some of the fights, but for the most part, I just relax and just kind of enjoy the moment, man. The feeling you get when you're about to fight and go into a fight is like I can't explain it, man. It's something I wish I could do for the rest of my life just to get that feeling, but of course I know it's not possible. So I just learned to enjoy the whole process, and
Well,
as I get older.
you stayed pretty healthy, so I think that you still got some good years left in you. Like I said, from what I see, you're just getting better. The opening ceremony thing, I can't tell you if I can't watch the opening ceremony of a RIZIN, I'll wait to watch the RIZIN event. You know what I mean? If I
Yeah,
miss that part, I'm not watching it until I can
yeah,
watch that part. And I
yeah.
mean, it's just so amazing. I mean, from Lenny Hart to their graphics to who makes your videos, Rocky? Like when you come out, do they do that for you?
Uh, like a couple times I know in the intro they had like some snippets of like my training or whatever. I know when Mia was having her fight, the same videographer came and like did some shots of mine. As far as all the editing stuff, I think they do their own. Uh, but hopefully, man, I wanna get one of those super cool designs that some of the like Cro Cop, he has his flag and everything like.
Yeah.
So now maybe one day I'll get to that level where I can just get that cool backdrop video and you know
What about any towels? That's what I'd love to see. Some Rocky Martinez towels. Towels seem to be this huge thing in Japan,
Yeah,
correct? I mean, of all
yeah,
sizes, square ones, the ones like I got up here. I mean, beach towels. We need some Rocky
yeah.
Martinez towels.
That's a good idea. I'll note that down and gotta tell my manager to look into that because I never thought about that. Got to make that available for the fans and stuff.
Oh man, personally, I love it. I like just seeing it in the crowd. People are holding up the Horiguchi towels. I know Kaya Sakura, for example, made his own, from what I understand, from when he was
Oh,
at Road FC, and then gave those to RIZIN. They slapped the RIZIN logo on them, so that may be something to look into.
oh yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure. I have to look into that.
who is your head coach, Rocky?
My head coach is actually Melker Manabusen. Um, he's a busy guy though. He's always he helps when he can. But for the most part, I kind of I like run a lot of my own programs and what I want to do. I just think with so many years in the game, and I just kind of figured out what works for me. So I kind of set out my own schedule. But I do have a couple of strength and conditioning coaches that are helping me. But as far as everything else, I kind of just guide them myself and set my own schedule. And I think why it works so well with me is that I can, I'm, I, my mental game is so strong now that I push myself. I don't need I don't need a coach in my ear
Mm,
telling me, oh, you got to push this, you got to do that, you got to wake up early, you got to go to train at this. Like, man, if anything, I'm the first one at training. I'm early. I wake up every day at 4 o'clock. I'm pushing myself every single day, and I don't need a coach to do that. And I think it alleviates a lot of that work for Melker, and just I'm able to push myself. So, but he guides me here and there when there's something I need to hear, then he'll tell me. But I think they kind of understand that I know what I after being so long.
know what you're
Um,
doing. So is your corner team usually the same? I mean, cut man and things like this.
yeah, they'll they'll tell me things like I'll kind of tell them to remind me, in certain positions. Like sometimes you can be in like a fight and you're so into the fight you forget what you might be good at, and like I'll be in a position and all I'll just tell them is, hey, just remind me about like this, like remind me, oh, I'm good at this move, or because once they say it, and it's happened to me before where I was on the top position, just ground and pounding, and then my corner yelled out, um, like it was like key lock flow. So I have like this flow drill that I do, and they said like key lock flow, and then they yelled it out, and I was like, oh shit, let me go through my progressive flow, and then I was like, oh, there's the key lock right there, bam, and I key locked the guy. So
Nice.
yeah, they know the right things to say at the whatever time it is.
So would you say that your mental game? I mean, how much of that is it of your fighting? If you could put a percentage on it.
Uh, definitely a high percentage. I would say it's up there with like my conditioning and my mental game, and then the skill and all that's like probably such a small percentage of what goes into the fight for me.
See, it seems that way to me watching. I look at someone like Cody Garbrandt, who has a very low fighting IQ, and that's his problem.
Yeah, yeah,
He's well conditioned. He's got a hell of a right hand, but his IQ is horrible, to say the
yeah,
least. You know?
yeah. He's just. It's like I feel like he's definitely a better fighter than TJ, but I mean he's not. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right. Yeah, how much other MMA do you watch?
man, I try and watch UFC as much as I can, or the Bellator cards. But like I said, man, I'm just so busy, and when I finally get the weekend to myself, like, I like relaxing, or it's. I guess I wish I could watch more fights than I do now.
Mm.
Um, but when it comes to Japanese MMA, I try and keep up as much as possible.
Who would you say is the best heavyweight in the world right now?
Man, I still think like for me, I still think Kane's one of the best heavyweights. He's unfortunate he's been injured. I think this last one he took off because of his newborn.
Right.
This his baby's about a year now, but he took off time because he wanted to spend time with his family. But yeah, I would say in my opinion, I think he's the best heavyweight, man.
Yeah, and he is fighting in 2 weeks, Francis
Yeah,
Ngannou. That's going to be a hell of a fight. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kane, man. Like, he just like he has that work ethic, and it's kind of something like I try and follow too. That just be the hardest worker in the room, you know.
DC talks about him and says that there's no way he could beat that guy.
Yeah,
Cormier says that, and that's a pretty humble thing to say, but I honestly believe he believes it. And to me,
yeah,
if you're looking at active heavyweights, you got to probably say Cormier is the best in the world right now.
yeah, and yeah, he's another guy too. I totally respect, man. Like, I know he carries that thing, the king of the grind, you know. So I think for me, like, I just really have a thing for these guys who work so hard at what they do. And I mean, they might, like, even some guys might not be the most skilled or whatever, but if I see they got the heart and like they're just a hard worker, it attracts me to be a fan of theirs.
Well, and like we talked about with the look of somebody, we talked about how people look at you and say, "Oh, this guy might not have any cardio because he's a big body guy." If you look at some of the greatest ever, you look at Fedor, you look at DC, these guys all had the dad bod.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, look at DC, man. Like, dude, that guy's freaking machine, man. Like, into the fifth round, he's still working, you know. So
Well, it sounds to me like the people you look up to, Kane Velasquez. I'd agree with you, probably the best ever, and so that's the good person to be looking at. We got to finish with one more fan question and one more from me. What else do you do in your free time? You have family?
yes, I have a family. I have a fiance and a daughter.
How old is your daughter?
She's 11.
Oh,
So
well,
yeah, she looks older than she is, man.
yeah. Welcome to the hard years. I got a 16-year-old.
Oh yeah, man. So it's kind of funny because my mom had her birthday lunch. We took her to lunch today, and um, the cutoff age for the kids buffet is 11. And when we told her she was 11, we could see them looking like, oh, he's just trying to get the deal, you know?
Well, yeah, girls don't look the same as they did when we were kids. That's for sure. I mean, I tell my daughter all the time, "Don't be going to school looking like that. What the hell's wrong with you?" You know what I mean? Like, it's too much
Yeah.
for me. When I was 16, the girls didn't look like that. You know, maybe it's
Yeah.
just, maybe it's just getting old. But I also gotta ask you, you a fan of boxing at all?
Yeah, I like boxing. I mean, I wish I could follow it as more than I actually do.
Did you watch
Uh,
the Fury and Wilder fight?
I only got to catch highlights of that one. Uh, I did see, like, for most of the highlights, that Fury was, man, he looked really impressive. I mean, except when he got dropped, but
Right.
that was pretty impressive how he got up from that. So, um, yeah, man, Tyson Fury, man, he's impressive.
Talk
I want
about
to see
an
him fight
unbelievable
Joshua,
story.
man.
That guy didn't just take time off. He took time off doing blow, drinking alcohol every day
Yeah,
for 3 years, came
yeah,
back. And I mean, to me, scoring the fight, watching it multiple times, he won that fight. And
yeah,
Wilder dropped him twice, and maybe you could give him another round or two. But that second knockdown, I think the whole world was like, "Oh, holy shit, how did this guy get up?" You know?
yeah. That
That
was crazy, man.
that was something amazing. I don't want to take too much more of your time because, like you said, you don't have any to even watch boxing. So we'll finish on just reminding the fans that Deep 88 is on March 9th. Roque Martinez defending his title against Ryu Sakai. You got a bunch of other good fights. You actually have a title fight opening that card, correct?
Yeah, there's the 115-pound title fight, I think.
And I think a lot of people don't know, but in Japan, they try to start the cards off with a really, really good fight,
Yeah, they want that to open up the show with a bang, which is cool, man. It's good for the fans. You get that matchup that will draw the fans in right away.
Yeah, yeah. Have you, I also got to ask you, have you been to RIZINs that you didn't fight on?
Yeah, I've actually watched a few. I watched one. There was one. I want to say it was early 2017, the year I fought LeBanner, and the fun. I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know if it's just fate or whatever, but I was at a RIZIN watching the fight, and I was with my fiance, and we just went out for a vacation and to watch the fights. And during the RIZIN fight, they put the spotlight on Jerome LeBanner was there, this is before I was even signed to RIZIN.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, it's Jerome LeBanner. Like, that's cool, you know? And they put the thing on, everyone's clapping, cheering. And then who would have known, like, later that year I was going to fight him, you know? It's kind of a trip to look back and see that, you know?
How did you get that shot?
The title fight or Jerome LeBanner?
No, Jerome LeBanner.
Oh, so they pretty much
that was your first RIZIN fight, correct?
Yeah. So Sakaki Bara was actually at the title fight that I won the deep title at, and I spoke to him after, and he was really impressed, you know. So you know, my manager is kind of like, oh, you know, if we can fight RIZIN, and he's like, oh yes, he's saying he'd love to have me in RIZIN, and from there, that's when they offered me to fight LeBanner in October.
Well, personally, I think you're going to become a staple of RIZIN, Rocky. You know, I watch all the fighters. RIZIN is the one organization that it's really hard for me to root for people. You know, I mean, unless someone like, I mean, no disrespect even, but someone like Manuel Cape that's slapping people in the head and the way of, but, you know, for the most part, Japanese versus Japanese, it's hard for me to root for somebody. But I can tell you that I'm a fan of yours. I got a lot of friends that are fans of yours, and I hope that you just keep doing what you're doing, man. You want to give people your social media so they could follow you?
Oh yeah, man. You can just follow me on my Facebook. I have you can just search me up, Roque Martinez. I'm not too sure the exact address, but it'll pop up there. It's not too many.
I'll put it in the description for people.
Yeah. Then my Instagram, Roque_Martinez86. I post a lot of my day-to-day stuff on my social media. You know, so if people want to follow along and see my daily activities. Pretty busy, man, so you can kind of get an idea of what I do every day, you know.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It's midnight here now in Colorado, and you know we've had the schedule and thing. But I hope to have you back on, Rocky, whether it be after your fight in March or hopefully after this RIZIN fight. Anytime, man. Open invitation anytime. Anytime you need any kind of promotion. But please get us some towels, man, and get me a shirt. Man. That's what we need.
For sure. My next print shirt, man, I got you on that one.
Right on. And RIZIN did just open an online store for international people. And so, you know, maybe making some towels and getting up there might not hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely going to look into that.
There's fighters of lesser caliber that have their stuff up there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. Hey, thank you. Really appreciate you having me on there, man. And
right on, Rocky. I hope to do this many times, man.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
Best of luck on the Mega 10 title defense. Don't forget, everyone, March 9th. Roque Martinez, thank you. I'm humbled and honored by your time, man.
All right. Thank you for having me again. Have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Yeah.